Some families become rich, a few become powerful, but the Rockefellers, they engineered something much bigger, a quiet scaffolding beneath America itself. Oil was the doorway, control was the method, and influence. That became the family tradition. This isn't the polished version you hear in classrooms. This is the version built from hidden agreements, political pressure, and a grip on the country that never really loosened. John D. Rockefeller didn't come from noble blood or respectable roots. He came from a man named William Rockefeller, a wandering salesman who sold fake miracle medicine, changed names whenever necessary, and kept multiple families without telling any of them. Growing up in that house teaches you things. John learned discipline in a place filled with unpredictability. He learned to stay calm when his world was unstable, and he learned that the person who controls the money controls the entire room. When he stepped into the oil business in the 1860s, he didn't see oil as a product. He saw it as a collapsing landscape waiting for someone steady enough to claim it piece by piece. And that became his obsession: bring order to chaos. And once you have order, hold on to it. At first, Rockefeller owned just a small refinery in Cleveland. Nothing impressive. But he moved differently from other businessmen. Where they chased quick profits, he chased control. Where they bragged, he remained silent. And while they competed in the open, he built alliances in the shadows. His most devastating move was his secret partnership with major railroads. Instead of paying the same shipping rate as everyone else, Rockefeller secured hidden discounts that made his oil cheaper to move than anyone else's. Competitors were paying full price. He was paying a fraction. Worse, he convinced railroads to increase rates for his rivals. It wasn't a price war, it was a slow suffocation. The agreement operated under a harmless name: the South Improvement Company. When independent oil producers discovered the truth, the outrage spread like wildfire. Meetings turned into protest. Men marched with signs demanding the end of Rockefeller's scheme. But here's the twist. The public battle distracted everyone while Rockefeller continued quietly buying the companies that were panicking. By the time the protests died, he owned nearly the entire region. By the 1880s, Standard Oil wasn't a company anymore. It had become a network. Pipelines, refineries, shipping lines, storage barrels, and nearly every part of the supply chain. If you drilled oil, he owned the pipeline you needed. If you refined oil, he owned the barrels required to store it. If you sold kerosene, he controlled the routes to deliver it. Competitors who refused to surrender found themselves mysteriously locked out. Pipelines suddenly full, railroad routes unavailable, suppliers unable to provide materials. Rockefeller denied involvement in these events with a calmness that made him look innocent. But the timing was always perfect, suspiciously perfect. In private correspondence, he called Standard Oil the organization, not a business, not a corporation, a structure built to survive everything. And it did. As Standard Oil grew, politicians began to worry. This wasn't competition. This was dominance so absolute that it threatened the government's authority itself. Reporters began digging. One of them, Ida Tarbell, became a thorn in Rockefeller's side. Her investigation exposed the hidden deals, the pressure tactics, and the cold strategy behind Standard Oil's rise. The public turned against Rockefeller, and the U.S. government finally stepped in. After years of hearings, questioning, and legal pressure, the Supreme Court ruled in 1911 that Standard Oil must be dissolved. To the public, it looked like a massive defeat. But in reality, it was the beginning of a new era. The company broke into 34 smaller companies: Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, Amoco, and more. Each one began to rise independently. Each one made the Rockefeller family richer. The government had cut the tree, but left the forest standing. With business dominance secured, the Rockefellers turned their attention to influence, the kind you can't measure on a financial chart. They began funding universities, medical institutions, research programs, and scientific foundations. The Rockefeller Foundation poured money into global health. They helped build modern medical education in the U.S. They influenced vaccine research. They supported agricultural programs across continents. Chase Bank, later part of J.P. Morgan, grew with Rockefeller guidance at the top. And when the United Nations sought a location for its new headquarters, the Rockefeller family donated the land. Influence without holding political office. Power without shouting. Control without public attention. They didn't rule America. They shaped the environment around it. Even today, the Rockefeller legacy flows quietly beneath the surface. Their foundations remain active. Their descendants sit on boards of major banks, think tanks, environmental groups, and philanthropic networks that help guide global policy. You won't see their name trending, you won't hear them in speeches, but the systems they built, medicine, economics, energy, education, are still part of the world's backbone. That's the real power, not the empire you see, but the one you don't notice until you look closely. The Rockefellers didn't chase glory. They chased structure, the kind that quietly outlives its creators. And if you want to explore more families, empires, and hidden histories that shaped the world from the shadows, make sure to subscribe. There are more stories waiting.